It's definitely been a while, but today I'm in New York City and I'm here to check out this, the OnePlus 10T. For the uninitiated, the OnePlus 10T is the latest smartphone from a company who has built its name on never settling. The same company who then went on to make a bunch of mid-range and affordable smartphones that very clearly asked its buyers to settle, all while pushing the price point of its flagship smartphones higher and higher. We've definitely come a long way since the 1,300 ringgit OnePlus One. But if you looked at the OnePlus 9 series and you didn't like all the frills, or if you really just wanted like a simple, no-nonsense smartphone that would have appealed to the core OnePlus fan base, then I think this might just be as close as it gets. Let me start with the specs. It has all of them. A Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor, up to 16 gigs of RAM and up to 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. There's not going to be a whole lot on the market right now that will outperform this device. The only thing that I would like to see would be maybe like a 512 gig option, but I think for most people 256 gigs should be more than enough to last the lifetime of this smartphone. They've also developed a 3D passive cooling system with something called a cryo velocity vapor chamber to keep those high performance internals frosty. And after spending a couple of days with it, I can say that something's definitely working. Even after 30 minutes of sustained gaming on Asphalt 9 with everything maxed out, the phone barely felt warm to the touch. Here's the thing, I'm clearly not a heavy mobile gamer and I can already hear the comments complaining, I can't believe he tested this with the Asphalt 9. Look, here's the thing. Although OnePlus may talk a lot about gaming, this smartphone really isn't positioned as a gaming phone the way something like an ROG phone would be, for example. OnePlus just says that gaming is a more realistic example of real-world performance compared to like, you know, a benchmark or a program like that. But if you do want to see specific games tested on this smartphone, let me know in the comments below and we'll see what we can do. That said, there are a couple of things here that will appeal to gamers. The performance was one, and this screen is another. It's a 6.7-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display with a refresh rate of up to 120Hz and a touch sampling rate of 1000Hz. Naturally, it will feature adaptive refresh rates ranging from 60Hz, 90Hz, and 120Hz, so it will adjust based on your needs. Would I have liked to see a Quad HD display? Yes, but in 2022, I'd still classify that as a frill, especially since most Quad HD phones run on Full HD resolutions to save battery. And it's a pretty nice screen. Peak brightness maxes out at 950 nits and it supports 10-bit color as well as HDR10+. Viewing angles are also solid with no significant color shifting when viewed off-axis. It's got almost everything that I'd want in a phone screen. But if I had to point at the single most mind-boggling thing about this phone, it would be the charging. Alright, quick test. So now battery is at 45%. I'm going to plug in the 150 watt charger. Plug in the 150 watt charger. Boom. Little lightning bolt. Let's see how much charge we get. Cool. Okay, it has been like what, almost 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. It's a couple of minutes. Let's see how much battery it has. How crazy is that? OnePlus has equipped this phone with a 4800 mAh battery, which isn't great by 2022 standards, but it supports charging speeds of up to 150 watts. This phone can go from 1 to 100% charge in just 19 minutes. 19 minutes! And the best part? They give you a 160 watt charging brick in the box. On top of this, apparently this battery has a self-healing component enabled by something called a bionic electric technology. The cell can continuously repair the electronic components in the battery to give it a lifespan of about 1600 cycles. Now, I don't really know what this means in a real-world setting. I tried asking, but then I didn't really get an answer. But it will be interesting to see how this affects battery health though, because besides battery life, that's the next thing you should be most concerned about. While it's easy to get excited about OnePlus returning to its core, it's important to remember that those early OnePlus devices were far from perfect. Despite the never settle mantra, you did have to give up a lot to get this unadulterated performance, and the OnePlus 10T continues that tradition. The very first thing I noticed when I picked the phone up is that it doesn't feel particularly premium. I think older OnePluses have always been a bit of an acquired taste, and this phone feels kinda like that too. On paper, the materials sound good. The back is this single unbroken piece of glass that wraps around the camera bump in a very organic way, but in the glossy jade green colorway, I just don't think it feels very nice. It's also a massive fingerprint magnet, so I'm personally more interested in the Moonstone Black variant. Then you have the frame, which is made of a material called, is this even metal? And then there are the buttons that wobble a lot. Together, the whole thing just feels like it was built down to a price, and it probably was. The upside is that it feels very light in the hand, and the curved structure of the phone makes it fit really nicely in your palm too. So people who hate heavy, blocky phones will probably prefer this over something like an iPhone 13 Pro. Famously though, one of the biggest criticisms of early OnePlus devices were their cameras. And unfortunately, on paper, it doesn't look like the OnePlus 10T inspires a lot of confidence. Yes, it does feature a triple camera system, but one of those cameras is a 12 megapixel macro camera that I feel is a little bit pointless. That means you're left without a telephoto camera. I'm personally a very big fan of telephoto cameras because they're so useful for subject photography. That being said, I was a little surprised with how well the camera actually held up in real-world photography. Shooting it alongside an iPhone 13 Pro, I don't think many would complain about how the images look. Yes, the Auto HDR is a little bit more aggressive than the iPhones, but it's hard to argue with how nicely some of these photos turn out. There's plenty of detail, plenty of color, and everything looks quite natural to my eyes. The only real drop-off compared to the iPhone is when it comes to zooming, because you do lose a ton of detail without a dedicated telephoto camera. The thing is, there are clear reasons why people love those early OnePlus devices, even with their flaws. Software was one of the big plus points. OxygenOS was the enthusiast's choice outside of stock Android because it was a lot like the phones it came preloaded in. No frills. It's mostly stock with a couple of quality of life features that made the thing a joy to use without being a pain to live with. But over time, OnePlus added more and more things to the launcher, and by the time OxygenOS 12 rolled around, the hardcore fans weren't happy. It was feeling and looking a lot more like ColorOS, and that's not something a stock Android fan wants to hear. In the OnePlus 10T's case, despite launching alongside OxygenOS 13, the phone still comes with OxygenOS 12 preloaded. OnePlus says that they just haven't had enough time to optimize the software for the new Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip yet, but I don't know if that'll be good enough for fans. I did ask them if they've done anything to ensure smoother and faster updates so that the issues that plagued the OnePlus 9 series wouldn't happen on the OnePlus 10T, and they said that they have spent a lot of effort on this, so I guess that's as close to a yes as we're gonna get. Only time will tell here. But I think the one thing that made OnePlus fans love these early devices, flaws and all, was the price. And that is the single biggest question mark that's hanging over this smartphone's head. At the time that this video is being shot, I don't even know how much this phone will be priced yet in Malaysia, so I can't even tell you if it's going to be a good buy or not. But I can tell you that the price will literally make or break this device. OnePlus doesn't have the luxury of Samsung or Apple to price their devices slightly above the market value because they don't have the ecosystem features that those phones have. They don't have the IP68 water resistance ratings, and they definitely don't have the brand recognition. My advice? Make sure that this phone is cheaper than the Galaxy S21 FE, and I think you will have an absolute banger on your hands. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. There is one thing though that I didn't mention earlier, and that's the fact that this OnePlus 10T will not be coming with an alert slider. And I know everybody's going to complain, and I get why. The alert slider was a very important or very useful feature, and a lot of people like to equate that with like the core identity of OnePlus, right? But here's the thing. My OnePlus One did not have an alert slider. So if you're complaining about it, you know, you're complaining about OnePlus leaving their identity behind, who's the real fan now? Anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think of the OnePlus 10T in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But that is it for this video. I'm Rory, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.